Now that we have the psychology of coding out of the way, we understand what telemarketing is, we understand the psychology, we understand the industry we are in. The next step is pretty much getting down to action. As we're at right now, our next step is literally getting down to action. We know what industry we're in, psychology of what we're doing, what we need to do. Our job is to reach out and find out distress sellers. Okay? You're like a soldier right now. Soldier, your job is to go to battle and kill the enemies. Okay, great. Where's the enemy located? Where is my gun? How do I shoot? How do I dodge? How do I survive? Welcome to the survival camp. Let's get after it. So the battleground is pretty much, you know, your dialer, you making calls and just calling. Your weapon is your script. Now, one thing I do want to say, a lot of people misunderstand a script. A script is not a prison for you to be locked in. A script is a framework, it's a conversational framework. And the job of a script is to guide us on a conversation. For example, your favorite artist, your favorite actor, they actually follow a script in every single movie they conduct. The only thing is they have internalized the script. They say the script without looking at it because they've internalized the script. What does internalizing a script mean? Internalizing a script is you've absorbed it, you understand what it is, and you know how to literally say it without having to read something. It's part of you. It's like literally, it's like talking. It's like having a normal conversation. It's normal. You don't have to think about it anymore. You've internalized it. That's literally what it means when you internalize a script. The only way to internalize a script is by actually studying and practicing it, reading it over to yourself over and over again, role playing, meaning, getting a partner and reading the scripts to each other. That's how to internalize a script. Now, this right here is the best script I have found in the real estate industry to get the most absolute success. It's not because I created it, it's because it just worked. So we're going to break this conversation into different flows. Introduction. Okay, when we're speaking with the seller, our first step is introduction. That's what happens when you make that first call and say hello. After the introduction, the next step is pretty much, the dynamic of the conversation, okay, which is motivation, condition, time frame, and price. There are four core factors, four things we're looking for when speaking with a seller to find out if a lead is a lead. Guys, just so you know, anyone that says, yes, I want to sell my property is not a lead for us. Yes, I want to sell my property is not a lead for us. They need to meet a certain criteria. And the criteria is M, motivation, C, condition, T, timeline, time frame, P, price. The seller need to check the boxes. The motivation, the condition, the timeline, the price need to make total sense. If it's not making any sort of sense at all, the lead is not a lead. Now, let's go through our conversation flow. The spotter. Hello, Larry? Wait for the prospect to speak. Hello, Larry? You shut up. If you don't hear anything, hello, Larry? Hey, Larry, you there? John, you there? Don't say, hello, Larry, this is Wally. I'm calling you, blah, 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 blah. You're gonna get hung up on. Beginning of the call, you say, hello, Larry? With a question mark. Hello, Larry? Larry says, who is this? Or how can I help you? You said, hi, this is Wally. I was giving you a call because I had a quick question regarding your property on 123 Main Street. Are you still the owner of that? If you notice, my conversation is not sped through, it's slow. I'm talking slowly. There's a reason why. I'm creating attention from the seller. I'm creating a reason for them to be curious as to who is this and why are they calling. Hi, this is Wally. I was giving you a call because I had a quick question regarding that. property on 123 Main Street. Are you still the owner of that? I promise you, you say you open up your call like this, any cold call to any stranger. When a stranger calls you, the first thing you want to know is who are they? The second thing, what do they want? Why are they calling? Okay, that's really why that's the main thing. So we want to answer the question. Hi, this is Wally. I'm Wally, and I'm giving you a call because I had a quick question regarding your property on 123 Main Street. Are you still the owner of that? The seller is going to be curious. Hold on, why do you have a question on my property? How can I help you? What do you want? So they would want to answer your question because they want to know why you're asking them. So they will be forced to answer your question. This would avoid you from being hung up on. If you start your call and the seller hangs up on you, you're not doing the soft intro correctly. You're not doing this correctly if the seller hangs up on you. If they say, yes, I'm the owner, your next thing is the opening question. The opening question opens up the conversation. It helps you know if there's a next step to go or if your conversation will end. Okay. And it will also help you know where your conversation will go next. And it will also help the seller know why you're calling them. Okay. The opening question. Okay, cool. We're looking to buy a property in your area and we were wondering if you might have any thoughts on possibly selling. Okay, you don't want to rush this. When you're cold calling, the biggest mistake people make is they talk really fast. When you're cold calling, you want to talk slow so people can really understand you. People can pay when you just so you know, when you talk slow, you force people to pay attention to you. If you don't believe me, I want you to go on YouTube. I want you to go watch a video of a judge prosecuting a suspect. The judge talks slowly. When you talk slowly, you drag attention and you create authority. It shows you're calm and it makes the seller calm at the same time. Okay? Okay, cool. We're looking to buy a property in your area and we were wondering if you might have any thoughts on possibly selling. No, I'm not looking to sell. Go screw yourself. That's not a problem, John. Do you have any thoughts on possibly selling? There's a different script that pretty much goes over objections when a seller says no that I have created, I'll share with you. But this right here is pretty much us going through a perfect call flow. A lot of people that prepare for when a call goes bad to the point where when a call goes well, they don't know how to handle that call. So we're going to pretend this is the perfect call. Yes, I'm the owner and I'm looking to sell. Great. How long have you been thinking about selling? We're trying to find out the motivation. And we're not just looking for a seller that says, yes, I want to sell. We're looking for a motivated seller. Remember, our job as a real estate investor is to buy a property cheap and sell the property for a high price. So if someone is not willing to sell their property cheap and sell it for a high price, we're wasting their time, they're wasting our time. So we need to get motivated seller. So motivation. Seller says yes, they want to sell. He said, great. How long have you been thinking about selling? Now, I want you to put yourself in a seller situation. Every human being that buys a piece of real estate, that buys a house, it takes them a lot of work to buy real estate. Some people don't buy it, it falls into their lap. But a lot of people that property fall into their lap, they're not a lot. Most people, they have to work really hard to buy a piece of real estate. They have to do a lot to own it. I want you to think about it like this. Your first car, you bought a car for the first time in your life and you decide to sell that car. Do you decide to sell that car? If you're serious about selling your car, do you decide to sell your car in a blink of an eye, in a snap of a finger? If you're a serious seller, will you sell your car because I say, hey, are you going to sell your car to me? You're not going to sell your car. And if you say yes, what are the chances of you actually selling the car? What are the chances of you telling me, you know what, I'm going to change my mind. I don't want to sell anymore. The chances are really high. So when we ask, how long have you been thinking of selling? We want to hear a time frame that sounds like this person I've been investing time into selling. How long have you been thinking about selling your property? About a week ago. Is the seller motivated? Yes, but they're not the greatest motivated seller, right? If they say about a week ago, The seller says whatever. Okay, what got you thinking about selling the property? If you say, I've been wanting to sell the property about a week ago, oh, okay, I see. What got you wanting to sell the property? Or what got you thinking about selling the property is my favorite word. It doesn't come off invasive. What got you thinking about selling the property, John? And they would answer your question. Okay, if the seller have been thinking about selling for like 6 months, great lead. Thinking about selling for like a whole year and they finally made up their mind today, or they finally made up their mind last week, great lead. Some seller might say, "Oh, I decided to sell my property last week," but they might have been thinking about selling the property for like years and finally make a decision last week. So we always want to know, how long have you been thinking about selling? A serious seller that is serious about selling, when you ask them about how long have you been thinking of selling, if it's just because you called, they're not a good lead. They're not motivated. If they're deciding to sell just because you call them, they're not. But if they've been thinking about selling, even though they might have not put a lot of time and energy into it because it's not a priority to them, as long as they have any thoughts on selling, that's a serious motivated seller. Like I said, if you buy a car, if you it took you a lot it took you a lot to buy the car. If you ever decide to sell that car, you should have put thoughts behind it, why you want to sell, and what it will do for you if you sell. You're not going to seriously sell your car or something precious to you just because someone asks you. The only way you will sell it just because someone asks you is if they pay you more than what it's worth or more than what you think it's worth. And in this business, that's not us. We will never pay a seller more than what their property is worth or more than what we think it's worth. So they need to want to sell on their own. Okay? Now, the next thing we're going to move on to is what got you thinking about selling the property. We want to understand what's your reason to sell. Okay, we just want to know. Oh, why are you asking me what do I want to sell, John? I'm just really curious. We're serious buyers. We're looking to seriously buy real estate, and we're looking for serious sellers. A lot of people say they want to sell, but they're really not serious. So I would love to know why they want to sell to see if I'm wasting their time or they're wasting mine. That's if they ask me that question. Why do you want to know why I'm selling? But most sellers that are serious, they would answer you. If a seller is giving you a hard time telling you why they're selling, iffy, iffy, iffy. Okay. Now we got a motivation. That's all we need about motivation. That's all. We don't need to dig into their life. We don't care. As a code caller, we just want to know. Okay. Now, just so you know, like I said, your job as a code caller is to share a message. The message is, okay, we are looking to buy a property. Are you looking to sell? The moment they respond, they show interest, we start furthering the process. If you're a girl, okay, let me know you something that's gender based, something generic. If you want to buy a car and someone tells you, "Hey, do you want to buy a car?" Okay, yes, I want to buy a car. The next thing is they're going to ask you questions to see if they have the car you want to buy. You want to sell your house, we're going to ask you questions to see if you're a good lead for us. That's why we're asking this question. We are qualifying the lead. Okay? Now, condition. If I want to understand the condition about a property, I always like to use this word flow. So, John, I only have a few details about this property in Zillow. Help me out a little bit. Help me get a better picture of the property. You sound professional. You sound astute when you speak this way. I only have a few details about the property here in Zillow. Help me out with getting a better picture of the property. The seller would say, okay, what do you want to know? Okay, awesome. How many bed and bath does it have? We want to find out. Second question, what type of repairs are needed in the home at the moment? You never want to ask line number three before line number two. The seller will lie to you. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your property? Holy smoke, my property is a 10. Yeah, it's a 10. Oh, what kind of repairs are needed? Nothing is needed in my property. It's perfectly fine. You position yourself in a place to get a low quality answer when you ask a low quality question or you ask the wrong question at the wrong time. Even the right question at the wrong time will give you a poor result. So, when we're about condition, what type of repairs are needed at the home at the moment? You want to find out. Oh, the house needs a new roof, it's leaking. The house is XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's not a problem. We buy the property as is. So I'm going to put a line here. So we want to make the seller feel comfortable to tell us that your property has a problem. A lot of people are a little bit concerned telling you that your property have a problem when you ask. So we want to solve that problem. What does it mean that we buy a property as is? What it means is we buy that property with the condition. If the house is falling apart, we buy it. We buy it just the way it is. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to make it fancy. You don't have to make it cute. You don't have to upgrade it. We will buy it just the way it is. If it's ugly, we would buy it ugly. That's what it means as we buy as is. So we buy properties. Let me change this to we buy properties as is. What type of repairs are needed in the home at the moment? If the seller tells you, "Oh, my property does not need any repair. My property is in a great condition. All you need is a paint job." Condition wise, it's a strike. X X it out. That's not a good lead for us. Condition wise, mind you, a good lead needs to qualify, it needs to pass at least two qualification factors out of MCTP: motivation, condition, time frame, price. At least two need to be good. Either motivation and condition, either motivation and price. Okay. Either, guys, just so you know, timeline is not really a strong motivating factor. It's great. Okay, it's really great, but you need to ask a better quality of answer, because a lot of people, they will say every would, especially some, it's really challenging to know who's motivated based on timeline, because some people will tell you, if you can pay me more than what my house is worth, I can sell it tomorrow, which is true. If you can pay for my car more than what my car is worth, you can have it right now, not tomorrow. If you can pay me what my car is worth, you can have it today. So timeline is not always the best motivation factor to be on. So I always look for at least two out of the motivation, the condition, and the price. Okay, timeline is not the best qualification factors. So condition wise, if the seller tells me the property does not need any repair, the next thing I will say is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the current condition of the property? My property, if a seller tells you my property is a 7, I'll be a little bit iffy, because we're looking for distressed properties. If a seller tells you my property is a 8, negative. If a seller tells you my property is a 9, negative. If a seller tells you my property is a 10, negative. For what we do, that property fails the condition qualification. We need properties that the qualification condition wise is below a 7. The property is distressed. The property need work. The property have a problem. Okay? If the property does not have a problem, if it's in a great condition, condition wise, the property is, so we're looking for two qualification factor. Condition wise, X failed. My property, just so you know, the property needs a lot of work. Okay, I'm not sure if it's what you guys would buy, but it needs a whole lot of work. I think the property is a tear down because it needs a whole lot of work. When you hear stuff like that, yes, money. That's what I hear. Let's go. I won that lead. If the property condition is below a 6, that's money right there. Condition wise, the lead qualifies. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay. Let's go to time frame. Also, we want to ask, is the property occupied by our tenants or is it by yourself? It's very, very good for us to know this. And I will tell you guys this on different training. If the property is tenant occupied, we want to ask, are the tenants on a month-to-month lease or an annual lease? You want to find out, when does the lease expire? You want to find out as well. Put that in your notes. Okay. Now, time frame. If we can work out a number that works for you, okay, when could you close on the property? Or I would change this to, when would you like to sell? When would you like to close? When would you When would you like to close on the property? Now, what does it mean to close on a property if you don't already know? So in real estate, you go into an agreement with the seller that you want to buy it. There's a whole process in buying a property. When you actually buy that property, when a property is yours and the money goes to the seller, that's when the property closes. Okay, most sellers understand this. If they be like, if a seller asks you, what do you mean by when can I close? What I mean is, when can we actually buy the property completely, where you get our money and we get the property? When can that happen? If the seller tells you as soon as possible, if the seller give you, just a FYI, if the seller gives you a specific timeline, that's a seller that's been thinking about selling and they're serious. If a seller tells you as soon as possible, okay, that's good as well. But however, it's conditional. It's conditional. It's good based on the price. Okay, if the seller price looks like, oh my God, the price is really good, and the seller is saying they want to close ASAP, this is a hot lead. They're motivated. They want to be done. They want to be done as soon as possible. They want to take that money and be gone and be gone. That's a motivated seller. So if we can work out the price that works out for you, when would you like to close on the property? Just get whatever the closing timeline is. The only time a lead will be disqualified, timeline wise, is if their closing timeline is more than 4 months. If a seller tells you, "Oh, I'm gonna sell in 6 months," it's a, uh, it's a. Mm. The only way I would take a lead like this is if the seller has a good motivation and the property condition really is butter. It's below a 6. Is the only time I would take a lead like that. If that lead tells me I'm going to sell in a year, just end your conversation. I'm going to end your conversation when I ask them, why wait such a long time? Why not sell like today? Okay. If a lead is disqualified, if the closing timeline, if the selling timeline is more than 4 months, it's a disqualified lead. Okay. Now, price, very important, very important. One of our very, very important qualification factor, a motivation, condition, price. Okay, our price tells us a lot about a lead. It tells us if this lead is qualified, if this lead is worth our time or energy, of if this lead needs to go sent to the gulag. Let me show you guys what a gulag is. Let's consult YouTube really quick. Gulag. Guys, I don't play Fortnite. My siblings do. Come on, Gulag. Yeah, you see this? The seller, the lead needs to be sent to the gulag. The gulag, okay? The gulag is supposed to be a scary place. The gulag is like jail. The gulag is just not a good place to be. It's like a war zone. The lead needs to be sent to the gulag. If the seller price, depending, if the seller price is absolutely ridiculous, based on the price, you will know if this seller should be catered for like an egg, a precious lead, or a lead that should be sent to the Gulag clan with a bazooka fired at the seller. Okay, so I was very passionate about that. Let me give you guys an example. Again, let me tell you guys how we qualify a lead based on price. So, what price do you have in mind for the property? Now, price question is very, very dynamic. Some sellers don't have a price in mind for different reasons. If the property needs too much work than what it's worth, and the seller does not know the price, it's because they don't know what a property is worth. It's fine if a property needs a lot of work and the seller does not understand what it's worth. That's fine. But if a property condition is more than a 8, a 7, a 8, a 9, a 10, and the seller tells you they don't know what they want for the property, they're lying, or they are going to be asking too much that the property is worth. All right. So, what price do you have in mind for the property? My price is $120,000. But let's say the seller does not have an asking price. I don't have a price yet. That's not a problem at all, John. But just so I have this part of my notes field, do you have a price you're hoping to get at all? Do you have a price in mind? Do you have a price you would like to get at all? Okay, we want to find out. Does this seller not have any price? I'm going to teach you guys how to handle objection in an entirely different training. It's going to be a whole different training completely. But for now, we would focus on leads that they already know the price they want. Okay, now, let's say the seller says the price he wants for his property is, let's use this property as an example. I have a call coming in. I don't know who's calling me. So let's pretend this is the property we're actually speaking of. You can completely disregard the condition of the property for now. You can completely disregard the condition of the property. Okay, just focus on the price for now. If the seller tells you, oh, they want, I mean, the condition of the property matters. If the condition of a property is below a 7 and the seller is asking way more than the Redfin estimate, I prefer to use Redfin because Redfin is the most accurate. But nevertheless, we'll put the condition to the side for now. Let's focus on the price. Okay. If the seller tells us, oh, for example, this property, the seller says, oh, I want $110,000 for my property. Huh. The seller wants exactly what the property is worth online. Price wise, does it qualifies? Not really, because the seller wants what it's worth exactly. They want the actual price for the property, but that's fine. Okay, it's fine. I wouldn't disqualify the lead if they want exactly what it's worth. So price, I'm actually going to create a separate training for price in depth. There's a different training. Price training needs to be talked about on its own. The price conversation is dynamic. Okay. Anyways, if a seller tells us, for example, let's ignore the condition for now. If the seller tells us they want 110 for the property is qualified, but it's not the best lead. Okay. If the seller tells us that they want $200,000 for this property, send it to the Gulag clan. Okay. If the seller says they want $150,000 for the property, I'm gonna load up my bazooka, but not fire it yet. Okay, I have the bazooka in my hand. I just have a bazooka is bigger than this, by the way. But I'll pretend I have a bazooka on. I'm not gonna fire it yet at the seller. I'm just gonna wait to see what the comps are. Comps is pretty much comparable. What other similar properties are selling for? Let me look at my comps. The seller wants 150. Um, does property in this area sell for up to 150? And if they do they sell for more than 150? Are properties in this area selling for more than 150? Okay, the cheapest property in this area sold for 125. The highest properties in this area sold for 230 based on comparable. All right, I'll put my bazooka back in my pocket. I'll push the lead. The lead is qualified because they're not asking for ridiculous price. But if this seller asks for 200, okay, the best property in our neighborhood is selling for 230. You might think there's money on it, but 30K is not enough. It ain't enough. 30K ain't enough. Okay, we need it a little bit cheaper. Okay, cheaper. Okay, if the property is not in, it has to be cheaper. If the seller say he wants $200,000 for the property, I'm bringing out my accents because this is a serious conversation. If the seller says he wants 200K, I am loading up the bazooka and I'm firing the bazooka at the seller's forehead. Poof! It's a disqualified lead. So lead that's qualified. If the seller is asking around the asking price, below the asking price, money, we have a good one. If the seller is asking below the asking price, we have a really good one. If the seller is asking like 10K less than asking price, 10K more than asking price, we have a well, if a seller is asking below asking price, we have a great one. If a seller is asking right around asking price, we have a good one. Okay. If the seller is asking a little bit over asking price, but as long as we're below our comps, we're close to the cheapest property sold. In this case, the seller won 150, but we're a little bit close to the cheapest property sold. We have a okay lead that it's qualified based on okayness. Other things need to check out. For example, the motivation needs to be there. Okay, and for example, the condition needs to make sense as well. Okay, and the price is just okay. It's not the greatest, but that ends this training for the script on what we need to say. Price, what price do you have in mind? This is an example for a seller that have a price in mind. Once you get through the price conversation, the next thing you want to say, thank you for your time, John. I will share all these details with our team, and you should expect a call wherever the acquisition managers are in your team. You want to give the acquisition manager name to the seller. Okay, in our company, I'm one of the acquisition manager, but the main acquisition manager is Eddie. Whoever the acquisition manager is who you want to put in here. Thank you for your time, Larry. I will share with you the details. I will share your details with our team, and you should expect a call from Eddie or Wally. What time of the day is best for a callback? Want to find out from the seller. What time of the day is best for a callback? Okay, is the best number and the number we're speaking on today, is this the best number to reach you on, or do you have another number? We're asking because, listen, you might have spent about 2 minutes on the call with the seller. You might have spent 2 minutes on the call with them. You don't want this lead to be gone, to be lost. You've already worked so hard. You called 200 people. You call 1,000 people just to get this one person on the phone. You don't want to waste and squash this opportunity. You want to find out, is this the best number to reach you, or is there another number for us to reach you on? When you have a real seller on the phone, you don't want to lose them because you're calling them on the wrong number, on your friend's number and your wife's number. Is there a better number? Oh, this is the perfect number. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Expect a call from Wally or Eddie later today from us. Have a great day. Hung up, move on. Okay, that's it. If you have any questions, leave in the comment section below. Hoorah! Let's